The Civil War by Trevor, Nicole, Kayla, and Jenna. Introduction. How the Civil War was like a sibling fight. The Civil War was like a sibling fight for many reasons. It was like a sibling fight because they were from the same family and they were fighting within the family. Scene 1. Fort Sumter. Decades of growing strife between North and South erupted in the Civil War on April 12, 1861, when Confederate artillery opened fire on this federal fort in Charleston Harbor. Boom! That gunshot was the start of the Civil War, and 34 hours later, Union forces would try nearly for 4 years to take it back. This happened because the South wanted to secede from the federal government, but they also wanted their own slave rights. They got so mad from all the compromises they made. But with those compromises, the tension between them got so bad that the Civil War started. After the attack on Fort Sumter, it nearly started the bloodiest battle of all time. Scene 2. The First Battle of Bull Run. This battle happened in 1862 and showed both the Union and Confederate forces that they needed training. A lot of people died because of the old battle tactics and modern artillery. This was a battle where mostly everyone died, as shown in drawings. The Confederate is defending themselves, while the Union is using their new mini-ball and muskets. While many were already dead, the war will not end quickly. They were a family fighting within. This resulted in a sibling fight because, just like siblings, they were both fighting for something they each differently believed in. Like, the younger sibling would want to watch Yo Gabba Gabba, but an older sibling would want to watch Hannah Montana. They would both fight for what they wanted. Scene 3. The Emancipation Proclamation. President Lincoln is feeling so stressed because of all the hard work and pressure to write the Emancipation Proclamation. He eventually gets through and writes it. Abe feels very accomplished with his letter. He says, "And I hereby join upon the people, so declared, to be free, to abstain from all violence, unless if necessary self-defense. And I recommend to them that, in all cases, when allowed, they labor faithfully for reasonable wages." This speech got the South so frustrated with him, they kept slavery. Lincoln was supposed to be the father of America, not bring them closer apart. This was like a sibling fight because my sister and I never got along. I remember when she was watching a movie about slavery with my dad, and she got the idea to make me her slave. Of course, she was too young to understand, but she was upset when my dad told her to stop bossing me around. Scene 4. The 54th Massachusetts Regiment. The regiment was named the 54th Massachusetts Regiment for many reasons. There were 54 African Americans, and they were in Massachusetts. They fought for the Union. They had tons of slaves on the Union side during the war. A lot of them wanted to be in the war to rebel against the Confederate. The Union treated slaves as family. This was like a sibling fight because if a middle child sided with the younger or older child, say the Union was the younger child, the Confederacy was the older child, and all the slaves were the middle children, they all sided with the Union. Scene 5. Woman in the War. There were actually women in the war, if you do not believe us. They helped meditate and feed wounded soldiers. They were a big help. Without them, the soldiers would have died and the Civil War would be way shorter than it was. The women in the war, just like men, were part of the family from America. Scene 6. General Lee's surrender. Lee was the leader of the South. He got so overwhelmed with all the fighting, he put his army on pause and decided to surrender. The North had won. The South couldn't take any more beating. They were done for. They needed to surrender. The South was destroyed. They needed to reconstruct. This is like a sibling fight because this is like a sibling fight because it's like the younger child giving up on doing what the older child wants the younger child to do. Scene 7. Abe's sad death. Abraham Lincoln was assassinated 1 week after the Civil War ended. This was done by John Wilkes Booth. He shot him in the head in a chair and a reward poster for $100,000. He was eventually caught and sent to jail for the death of the beloved Abraham Lincoln. Scene 8. Geographical differences in slavery. The North had different climate and geography, which led to different views on slavery. They had the South climate was hot and humid. They had perfect weather for farming and making slaves to do the job for them. The North, on the other hand, had immigrants who had moved to America to work in the factories and make money. They made money and sent them to their families for a better life. The North's climate was cold and wet. They couldn't farm. This could be like a sibling fight because if the two siblings are sharing a room and they can't decide which furniture they want. That's the difference between geography. Scene 9. Compromises. The North and South made many compromises throughout the 1800s. They made the Dred Scott decision, which was in favor of the South. The Missouri Compromise, which was in favor of the North, and many other compromises. This made the North and South raging at each other. They made Fourth Compromise in particular that started the Civil War. Scene 10. Point of view and how the Civil War made today a better America. We learned the folly of entering into a war unprepared. We're not going into war unless the tension has got too high. It developed the America that we all know today. The Civil War was like a sibling fight, but with every family there is stress. This war was necessary for the foundation of America.